guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called When the Witch's Daughter Lifts the Male Lead's Curse. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! Charming Dionel is taken aback when he unexpectedly encounters a lovely white-haired lady named Daisy in a surreal forest-like location. Daisy, on the other hand, appears to be the most startled to see him, considering this is supposed to be a breakthrough moment for him as the main character. She's inside a novel called Monster Prince, where Dionel is referred to as a monster since he can transform himself into a beast after being cursed by an evil witch named Kalia. Today, he should meet the female lead and receive a true love kiss from her to break the curse. Classic. Daisy only wants to quietly see if he would get his curse lifted and leave, and she does not want to see him at all because he left her 13 years ago. Years have passed, and she still can't believe he turned out so manly after being such a cutie patootie before. But she quickly averts her gaze as he is the one who broke her heart. Despite Daisy's awkward statement that she's leaving, Dionel unexpectedly hugs her and begs her not to leave him again, which puzzles her because she knows he's the one who abandoned her. Let me take you to where this transmigration all started. 14 years ago, our girl actually entered the very novel she used to leave hate comments on because the plot was too cliché. She astounded to see herself in the 5-year-old body of Daisy, the adopted daughter of Kalia the witch, and the one who tortured Dionel alongside her stepmother. Actually, Kalia abducted Prince Dionel and cursed him with the ability to turn him into a monster so that she could absorb his magical energy. After forcing Dionel to continue consuming poisonous plants in order to increase his energy output, she harvests his magic. He will endure unbearable suffering until destiny brings him to the female lead, who will not be afraid of his appearance. In the story, once his curse is removed, he will return to the imperial palace and be crowned prince. Is there anything else you can imagine this poor guy doing with his authority? Obviously, he had Daisy and the witch put to death. Daisy trembles as she recalls all of this, and she too is a victim of Kalia's abuse, and was adopted to serve as Kalia's test subject for extracting magical energy. She is starting to freak out and wants to get home as soon as she realizes this. Honey, that is why you should never make hate comments. Kalia appears before her, and oh my, this witch is so pretty that Daisy is shocked and instantly addresses her as mother. This irritates Kalia, who then demands that Daisy address her correctly. However, Daisy makes the mistake of referring to her as ma'am, which only serves to infuriate Kalia even more. Maybe ma'am my? Kidding. Daisy awakens the next morning, having passed out due to Kalia's tremendous aura the day before. Plopping to the floor, she suddenly recalls that the old Daisy used to refer to Kalia as Miss Witch. And speaking of that witch, she comes into Daisy's room, appearing irritated, but finally smiles when Daisy addresses her correctly. Is she like bad? Cause she looks so pretty to be a villain. Kalia informs Daisy that she'll be going to the capital and hands her a pouch of poisonous plants that Daisy must feed the young Dionel at the abandoned house. She then gets angry when Daisy appears terrified and tries to compose herself, as she is going to meet Gelfus today. Gelfus Viscount Orsanium is Kalia's lover and the late emperor's son from his concubine. In the Orsanium Empire, the amount of magical energy one possesses determines one's strength, and Gelfus was born with insufficient magical energy, earning him the nickname Useless Crown Prince. He was an easy target for Kalia's ambition because of how disregarded he was. At the age of 14, Gelfus suffered a knockout, and it was Kalia, with her black hair and innocent appearance, who came to his aid, oblivious to the fact that she had orchestrated everything. After falling head over heels for her, Gelfus was taken aback when Kalia confessed that she is a witch and can't go with him. The Orsanium Empire hunts witches, but Kalia trusts him that this would change if he became emperor. However, considering Gelfus's lack of magic, it seems unlikely that he will become emperor. With her charming gaze, Kalia assured him that she would find a way to make him emperor, as long as he did what she said. However, not long after, the empress gave birth to Dionel, who possessed an extraordinary scale of magical energy. Kalia knew this would derail her plan, so she abducted the helpless infant and cursed him. Baby Daisy is resolved never to torture the male lead, and since Kalia's return from the capital would take several days, she intends to take that chance to get close to Dionel. She joyfully puts the bread into her bag, hoping it will help her win him over. However, there is a major obstacle. She must get past 3 Cerberus, a type of 3-headed dog, before she gets to Dionel. Well, she could merely apply the poisonous perfume because the animals dislike the fragrance of it. But that also applies to DNL, so her plan to get closer to him could fail. Still, she must spray it to prevent the three Cerberus from devouring her. Daisy successfully passes through them, but she suddenly stumbles into a mud pool, washing away the scent. The salivating Cerberuses approach her, but to her confusion, they simply lick her and want to play catch with her. Oh, they're just your typical dogs, but powerful. Playing with them till they pass out is Daisy's plan, but she ends up passing out first. She visits the abandoned house that night and immediately apologizes to DNL for any harm she has caused him. She bows before DNL, begging for another chance to redeem herself, and she digs inside her bag and pulls out a loaf to offer him as a token of her apology. DNL slaps it away, making Daisy weep because she was also hungry, but she decides to give it to him. That witch is treating both of them very badly. DNL, taken aback by her reaction, clenches his head and emits a dark aura, prompting Daisy to remember that in the novel, DNL transforms into a beast when under stress. His clothing starts to tear as he tells Daisy to run away, but she can't because her legs are shaking with fear. By the time she realizes it, DNL has turned into a monstrous creature and pounces on her. But when she opens her eyes, a cutie little panther is roaring above her. OMG, can I keep him? DNL uses his tiny fangs to bite her arm, leading her to pinch his fluffy furry cheeks while scolding him for being a bad kitty. He releases her and is taken aback by his own behavior while Daisy smirks at herself, thinking that DNL wouldn't be too much trouble. However, just as she turns around to face the bad kitty, he grows into a much larger feline and is ready to strike. Daisy, on the verge of death, remembers that the angrier DNL becomes, the bigger and more deadly his beast form becomes. As DNL charges at her, she is left with no option but to use the bread as a weapon, and much to their amazement, it manages to knock him out. Oh gosh, that's no baguette, but a concrete! Half asleep, but smitten with the warmth, DNL turns back into his human form. Daisy is adjusting his blanket, leading DNL to awaken, bolt away from her, and question whether she started the fireplace. Our very adorable Daisy proudly confirms that she did because he was unable to light it due to the witch's curse. She then flashes him her most radiant smile, but DNL remains suspicious, telling her to quit acting friendly and instead asking her what she wants from him. As his anger causes his cute kitty ears to pop out, Daisy lets out a scream, expressing that she simply wants to be of help to him from now on. The Daisy he knows would never say this, so he grabs her hand and forces her to admit who she really is. But when our girl insists that she is the same Daisy, he lets go, causing her to fall to the floor. Frustration wells up in her eyes as she reminds him that she was terrible previously but is now helping him out, just like the bread she offers him. DNL just responds that Daisy's help now will not change the fact that she used to harass him, causing Daisy to tighten her fists as she explains that she has no choice, since if she does not follow the witch's orders, she will get hit. Daisy goes on to say that she no longer wants to live a life where she hurts others in order to avoid being harmed herself. She understands that no matter how hard she tries to please Kalia, her stepmother will never love her, and she's only able to survive because she's still valuable to her. In the novel, DNL becomes lifeless as a result of his suffering, but so does Daisy. Poor babies. After adopting Daisy, Kalia discovered that she was a Ludkelna. Ludkelna are individuals that possess enormous magical energy, or holy power, but are unable to use those gifts, hence they are considered useless by society. Kalia despised Daisy for being a Ludkelna and used her as an experiment to learn how to extract magical energy. Never be fooled by beauty. This witch is truly evil for abusing tiny kids for her own gain. DNL is unaware of this part of Daisy's life since he only sees her as someone who has harmed him. Now that he is aware that they're in the same circumstance, Daisy believes she can win him over, but this only enrages him more. For the time being, she withdraws, but she does leave him an ointment to use before climbing to the back of the Cerberus and returning to the tower. Poor DNL holds the ointment close to him, but when he realizes Daisy, unlike him, must have enough medicine at home, he throws it away. Truthfully though, he's delighted to see Daisy because for the first time in his life, he has a visitor who isn't there to hurt him but rather to chat. He then takes a seat next to the fireplace and blames all the warm emotions he's experiencing on it. Daisy wanders cheerfully inside the tower the next morning, heading to Kalia's library. Kalia is acknowledged to be one of the best magic users in the novel, but Daisy wonders why she became a witch rather than a magician, given how severely witches are treated. Her thoughts are cut short when she finally discovers the book she's looking for, Basics of Pharmacology. As a Ludkelna, she is unable to use magic, so she wishes to learn how to make medicine and treat Prince Dionel. A map falls from the book, depicting the area surrounding the tower. But what excites her is the location known as the Great Fairies Spring. Since Kalia hasn't returned home yet, our girl eagerly embarks on an adventure to get there. After a joyful reunion with her doggos, she names all three, Saro, Barrow, and Russ. Our girl isn't too creative, but it works. Daisy then notices the blood from their mouths and realizes that these dogs know how to hunt, so she uses her big, lovely puppy eyes to beg them to bring her meat to share with the prince. Saro and Russ rush away to get it for her, while Barrow accompanies her on her trip. She is so cute. They eventually arrive at an empty campsite, so our girl does shopping and returns with a bottle and bowl. Barrow hands her a bag full of useful items that she can give to Dionel, which makes her very happy. When she arrives at the abandoned house, she is greeted by an angry Dionel with his cute ears, who is convinced that Daisy has hidden motives. She urges him to chill out, but then she spots the ointment on the floor and gets mad because he isn't using it. This makes Dionel look at her in complete confusion, as he can't believe a little child is scolding him right now. Daisy takes the ointment and orders him to stretch out his hand, which Dionel follows, puzzled. After she applied the ointment, he gets shocked to see that his arm has completely healed, prompting Daisy to exclaim that the witch's medicine is quite effective. After Dionel assumes it was hers, he was shocked to hear that she confessed to stealing it from Kalia just for him, and that the woman would never give it to her, no matter how sick she became. Dionel holds the ointment and refuses to use it or anything else that Kalia created, but Daisy convinces him to use it anyway, explaining that Kalia would be humiliated to know that her pricey herbs are being used by mere kids. She bursts out giggling at the thought of it, which makes Dionel smile too, and makes him decide to use it to his heart's content. Yay! We finally see him smile! She then drags a dead antelope her doggos captured and proudly presents it as their lunch, making Dionel's eyes light up. After that, she gives him drinkable water and promises to bring him more food from now on, while he casually holds his knife to butcher their lunch. He shows no signs of anger or refusal, which is a good start. But she freaks out just before he butchers it, so Dionel tells her to go play outside if she's scared. She heads outside until she suddenly realizes that she has a good knife that he can use. However, when she turns back, she witnesses him already splattered with blood, leading her to scream uncontrollably. Her booming voice overwhelms Dionel, causing his ears and tail to stick out, so she immediately closes her mouth to stop herself. She quickly apologizes, and surprisingly, Dionel accepts. After that, she sees his tail and, smitten by its plush texture, starts to unconsciously grab it. She starts having fun with it, but quits when Dionel looks at her upset. I understand you, girl. The urge to pet a wagging tail is so hard to resist. She panics and doesn't know how to explain what she just did, but again, Dionel refrains from being furious, pats her head, and begs her to calm down. How in the novel world are these two so cute? As they sit by the fire waiting for the meat to cook, Dionel looks over at Daisy and asks how she makes fire. But he quickly changes his mind when he sees that she's drooling. Cutie Daisy wipes her drool as she explains that the doggos can breathe fire, and she lights the fireplace using Russ, who has the weakest fire. She can't help but feel bad for the young Prince Dionel as she looks at his back. One of the spells Kalia casts on him makes it impossible for him to accomplish things like light a fire. If he tries, the flames would extinguish instantly. So Dionel has spent his entire time cooped up in a desolate house without any means of warming himself, and Kalia has cast a confinement spell on him, preventing him from leaving the house. Her concerns are cut off when she sees Dionel breaking wood like it's nothing, and she can't believe a famished 9-year-old boy could do such a thing. Talk about being the main lead! He then hands her a freshly cooked piece of meat that he prepared, and she excitedly devours it, making him smirk, believing that the antelope was not a gift, but that she simply wants him to cook it for her. Daisy quickly disputes it, stating that she is concerned about him and wants to make one less lonely boy. I see. Our girl was a Bieber fan in her past life. And look at that, her concern brought about Dionel to smile again, which amazes her, so she can't help but stare. Our grumpy boy notices this and becomes mad, flashing his fangs, which causes our sweetie bun to pout. Gosh, our baby's pouting face is so adorable. They finish eating together and Daisy flops to the floor, patting her now full belly, before suddenly sitting up and deciding it's time to go back, surprising DNL. She adds that she will bring him more ointment, but DNL simply says he doesn't need it anymore. This puzzles her, but she eventually realizes that this boy simply doesn't want her to leave yet, so she makes fun of him about it, but then receives a scolding. Cuties. She hurries to the door while claiming she will return tomorrow, but DNL never looks back or responds, so she repeats it and says it's a promise. I have a bad feeling about this. Pharaoh drops her outside the tower and she hoppingly makes her way to the door, beaming as though today is the best day ever. Until she hears Kalia's voice. Oh dear, she's back already? Kalia smirks as she notices Daisy made a cape out of her clothing and leans closer to her, while our poor girl looks so terrified as she explains she just reused a dress she thought Kalia had thrown away. The witch, nevertheless, is far from finished. With an incredibly menacing expression on her face, she grabs Daisy's cape and demands to know where Daisy went, but this time, Daisy is unable to say anything as she is shaking with fear. She lifts Daisy and turns her hair crimson as she screams. This violent witch used to have black hair, but it went white after she became a witch. However, her hair may turn blood crimson, indicating that she is enraged beyond control. Gosh, throwing tantrums to a child? She deserves to be punished. Her red hair also symbolizes that she offered her blood to a fallen god in exchange for power. Kalia then throws Daisy to the floor and draws her magic sword, threatening her child to speak. She discovers that Daisy went to DNL to collect magical energy. Daisy additionally reports that she created a cape out of the dress that had been chewed by rats, which surprises Kalia, but she doesn't care anymore because she only wants the magical energy she acquired. Daisy carefully states that she was unable to gather it because DNL resisted too much. But the witch is smart, claiming that Daisy did not leave to collect because she does not smell like the poisonous plant at all. She gives Daisy a seemingly innocent smile while saying that a child who lies deserves punishment. The horror on our girl's face is so... Anyone please help! Daisy lies on the floor, panting and coughing after what seems like an eternity of beating, praying that her body can endure the pain she feels. She then finds a vial beside her and crawls to get it, which smells like cough medicine, so she drinks it all. The brutal witch must have beaten her so badly that she's unable to stand. She feels lightheaded and immobile immediately after downing the entire vial. Kalia didn't murder Daisy in the book, so she knows the vial couldn't have been poison. But now she's beginning to black out. Also, her final thought was that she promised DNL she would meet him, which she now deeply regrets because she knows he's probably waiting for her. Daisy is dreaming that she is submerged in water and sees a hand reaching out to her. A woman's smile catches her attention as she opens her eyes to feel its touch on her forehead. She then feels her body revitalizing and her wounds healing, which takes her by surprise. She quickly turns to ask the mysterious woman if she had healed her, but all the woman does is smile. Daisy thinks the pretty lady looks familiar, but she brushes the idea aside and instead bows her head in gratitude for the woman's help. She asks the lady for her name, but then she disappears. Meanwhile, Kalia is keeping a close watch. DNL awakens to find Daisy still sleeping beside him, and as he tries to sit, he feels his hand on hers and recalls what happened, causing him to blush. He continues to grumble about how bummed he is that she had arrived after a week of waiting, and it appears that he tried to leave the abandoned house but became sick due to the confinement spell. While he looks at her still-held hands, he tries to detest her for being the daughter of the witch who torments him every day. But he can't shake the thought of the young girl who helped him and cares about him. A monster. He then gives her a troubled smile, but eventually chooses to forgive her this time. Daisy wakes up, wondering where the prince has gone, when suddenly she hears footsteps approaching her and sees the prince in the shape of a baby panther growling at her. But she is surprised to see how quickly the prince transforms into his human form and begins to question whether he can now control his beast form. I'd like to see more of his adorable kitty form. She then gasps when she realizes that the spell must have been lifted. With a smile, DNL believes that it would be impossible. This makes her feel disappointed because obviously he would not be in the abandoned house if it had happened. Then DNL describes how, when alone and hungry, he transforms into a panther but can quickly return to his human form. Except for the times when Kalia torments him, he feels like he can control the beast form to a certain point. After that, Daisy asks a totally reasonable question. Why is he wearing clothes when he was clearly a naked panther just seconds ago? What a must-know question you have there, sweetie! DNL finds this amusing and then asks her if she would like to see him with no clothes, which causes her to blush. He gives her a cheeky grin and tells her that even though his clothing falls apart when he turns into a panther, he's always covered when he returns to his human form. He then teases her not to become overly excited, which makes her react more strongly to him. As they sit in front of the fireplace, she wonders why the witch hasn't come to find her yet, despite her orders to bring his magical energies to her. She quickly clarifies, before he misinterprets, that she does not intend to harm him. She goes on to add that she gave him medicine since he was in pain just a second ago, and that he is now pain-free after drinking it, proving her sincerity. He frowns, remembering how the medicine hurts like he's dying, but Daisy assures him that he's fine and that it's normal to feel discomfort before it works. She sees he doesn't trust her, so she tells him she's speaking the truth because she took it herself recently, which causes him to wonder whether she didn't come because she was sick. She nods, telling him that the witch beat her violently and left her whimpering in pain when she realized she hadn't given his magical energy to her. But in the end, Kalia gave her the medicine. Daisy was beaten, abused, and nearly died, yet she still manages to smile confidently and declare that she is now okay, and even believes she came out healthier. How could she be so pure? At this point, DNL believes her and confirms that it helped him because now his leg has also healed. Daisy remembers that he did have a limp in the original novel, with the female protagonist curing him later. Then, with a sad face, DNL asks her if she's not bothered about him being a monster, ugly and limping, prompting Daisy to be so shocked. DNL was taken aback as she raised her voice in disbelief that he could say such things, especially considering how attractive he is. He puts a grin on his face and asks her in a playful way whether he's more handsome than the boys in her favorite novel, which caught our girl off guard. As soon as he gives Daisy the book, she scans it and finds out that although it seems to be a book about medicine, it also has some romance novel sections. That's Kalia's book, so, that witch is reading romance? After apologizing for reading it without her permission, DNL shyly asks if she thinks he's handsome. Our not-so-confident boy blushes as Daisy asserts that he's more stunning than any character in the book, which makes DNL happy and makes him want to read the romantic novel. She promptly tosses it into the fire, since a child his age should not be reading such books. She then changes the subject, asking where he learned how to butcher meat and if he had ever tried it before, only to discover that it just came naturally to him, possibly because he's a beast himself. With a faint grin on his face, DNL reveals that he's adjusting to his curse of turning into a beast and is becoming more adept at controlling it. How our poor prince is finding the silver lining in his curse is admirable. He proceeds to reveal that he can transform into a panther whenever he sees Kalia, but he is unsure of how to go back to his human form, which is fantastic news for Daisy. She holds his hand in excitement and suggests that when the witch shows up, he transforms into a panther and give her a lesson. Dear, I don't think that would be that easy, though. DNL's confidence increases as Daisy expresses the confidence she has in his abilities, and she goes on to say that she will steal all of the witch's poisonous plants so she can't use them against him. Even though the prince still has doubts that it will be easy, she's beaming with confidence and thinks it will be easy peasy lemon squeezy for him, considering he's the male lead. Yeah, I see, but seriously, you need to put some thought into this, girl. For some reason, DNL can't understand why Daisy keeps referring to Kalia as a witch. Daisy thinks that sounds disrespectful enough as it is, and she doesn't know what else to name her stepmom. Daisy's eyes literally pop out as DNL starts using curse words as nicknames for Kalia, and her spirit nearly leaves her body because she can't believe a kid who grew up alone learned such horrible words. When the prince sees her puzzled meme face, he laughs and confesses that he's only joking. She is so taken aback by DNL's joke-telling skills, but then suddenly, they hear the Cerberus barking ferociously outside. The moment the prince detects the scent of the person we all know well, he immediately gets to his feet. Kalia is here. I was loving the fluff, but this witch had to spoil it. DNL immediately quenches the fire while holding Daisy and hiding behind a corner packed with large boxes, just in time for Kalia to enter the house, sounding like a creep out to hunt for her daughter. Daisy looks disgusted at hearing that awful witch address her daughter and is worried that DNL will misunderstand that she has a good relationship with the witch. As the witch loses her temper, she starts yelling at Daisy, telling her to come out or face her last day today. Daisy feels a shudder go through her body, and she looks over and sees that DNL, who is holding her shoulder to keep her safe, is also terrified. She had earlier assured DNL with confidence that he could defeat Kalia, but now she thinks it's impossible since Kalia must have brought poisonous plant perfume. Daisy mentally prepares herself, knowing she has no choice but to step up. So she smiles at DNL and pats his head, assuring him that she'll be fine and that he must remain hidden until they leave. Before DNL could react, Daisy already stands up and walks towards Kalia, prompting the witch to applaud her. Then, with a surge of malicious intent, she unleashes her lightning magic to punish the already traumatized Daisy. Our girl lies sprawled on the floor, her eyes appearing weary, yet she manages to silently assure DNL that she's fine. After they leave, DNL breaks down in tears and trembles, blaming himself for Daisy getting hurt. Driven by an intense desire to help the helpless girl, he hastily makes his way towards the door, but the confinement spell placed upon it sends him flying through the air. With another attempt, he goes through his transformation, starting as a small kitty and evolving into a majestic panther. He perseveres, enduring injuries as he pushes forward. Precious babies trying to protect each other. 2 weeks later, they actually put Daisy in a cell where Gelfus is swishing foxtail grass, wondering whether she will attempt to eat it up. Ugh, the heck is this person treating our girl like an animal? The dumb prince appears bored while Daisy sits in the corner of her bed disgusted. Gelfus stands up and unconsciously taps his scepter, causing it to activate and release its powers. In response to the ruckus it produces, Kalia scolds him, and the two put on a display of their lovey-dovey behavior in front of Daisy, who finds their antics awful. Daisy listens to them and discovers that Gelfus is now full of magical energy as a result of the power she pulled from DNL, who is in monster mode and furious, increasing his magical energy. Kalia believes that DNL will soon transform into a full-fledged beast, enabling her to draw even more pure magical energy from him. When it happens, DNL will release black energy, which is far more potent than the vague red energy he is currently emitting. You may be asking how on earth a prince from the Imperial Dynasty and a widely hunted witch can be romantically involved. Well, there is a reason. Kalia cast a spell on him that would keep his love unchanged no matter how hideous she becomes. Gelfus soon became her partner in crime, and to begin their scheme to make him emperor, they brainwashed the Empress and made her crave the honey of a dawn flower that blooms only in the abandoned forest. Because the Emperor loves his Empress so greatly, Kalia knew he would obtain it for her. And as expected, the Emperor went on a trip to personally get it for his pregnant wife. But on the way, they came upon a landslide, unaware that Kalia had cursed the area, preventing anybody from using magic. Whoa, she even murdered the Emperor? The news of the Emperor's death in that tragedy shook the Empress to the point that she gave birth to DNL prematurely. The Empress's already miserable situation was made worse when she learned that her baby had died after delivery, a lie that Kalia had bribed the midwife to tell in order to kidnap DNL. This lovely Empress had endured so much. After that, there was a surge of support for Gelfus to succeed as Emperor. This was due to his supposedly increasing magical energy, which the Empress found hard to believe. After all, a person's magical energy is determined at birth, so this development couldn't possibly be real. After doing some investigating, she learned that her midwife had recently passed away, but had left behind a journal. As she continued to read, she discovered that Gelfus and Kalia had persuaded the midwife to assist in the kidnapping of her child. Although her demeanor quivered with rage, the Empress maintained her composure because she knew that putting them in prison greatly increased the risks that they would hurt her son. Furthermore, her only piece of evidence is a diary entry. Acting hastily could lead to revolt among the vassals of the Empire, leaving her with no choice except to stop Gelfus from becoming emperor. On that fateful day, the Empress sobbed uncontrollably. Her entire world had crumbled around her. Knowing her son is alive is a relief, so she's likely searching for him, isn't she? Daisy then gets shivers when she hears that Kalia killed the people who attempted to pass the barrier she created around the forests, which makes Daisy believe that this witch, whose hands are already stained with blood, could kill her at any time. She then realizes that this could be the reason Kalia returned early. She was unable to travel to the capital and instead took care of the guys in the forest. The lovers then talk about the basics of pharmacology book Kalia gave Gelfus, and it appears that Gelfus needs it because he placed the ancient map of the Great Fairy Spring in it, but couldn't find it anywhere in the library. Yup, it was the book that Daisy tossed into the flames. Well done. Gelfus throws tantrums like a child because he wants the book so badly, making Kalia suspect that he hid a rated 18 novel in there, which he denies. But Daisy has already seen it, so yeah, ew. He runs away, claiming he will visit DNL as an excuse, leaving her alone with Daisy. She smirks at our girl, which is not a good sign, and orders Daisy to run an errand for her. She explains that she ran out of the poisonous plants she needed for creating the perfume, and Daisy should go pick it up for her, which is really unusual of her. Daisy carefully inquires if she has any perfume left to use against the savage Cerberus, to which Kalia replies that she does not have any because Gelfus took the last one she had. Without showing any shame, the witch goes on to remark that Daisy, literally a child, should handle the Cerberus, and she laughs off the idea that Daisy could get devoured. Upon Kalia's departure, our optimistic girl shines with joy because she now gets to visit DNL. Aw, her smile is so precious. I just wish they had an adult to help them out. Daisy reaches somewhere in the forest and thanks Barrow for the ride. As she joyfully makes her way to DNL, she stops in her tracks when she hears Gelfus. Following the sound, she finds the cruel prince toying with DNL in his panther form with the poisonous spray. It seems like his perfume supply is becoming low when all of a sudden, he falls over a pebble and drops it. Fishy. Is that karma or an act? Daisy gets her eyes set on the perfume and discreetly comes over to get it. But as soon as she has it in her hand, Gelfus spots her and starts staring at her with such wickedness in his eyes. He tries to take it from her, but Daisy manages to slip away, and she looks at DNL, motioning at her, indicating that it is time for a counterattack. After Daisy destroys the perfume bottle, Gelfus discovers DNL prepared to strike. But instead of being frightened, Gelfus cannot resist but burst into laughter. I knew it! This evil crown prince is clearly just messing with them! His next move is to wield his scepter at DNL, causing our boy to instinctively leap back to protect himself. The crown prince then reminds the kids that he is full of magical energy now and could easily take out both of them. Pointing his scepter at Daisy, he says that he and Kalia are already aware that she has been helping DNL the whole time. Daisy does not give up hope, believing that Gelfus is only making a lie to frighten her. So she bravely yells at him to stop lying, since the witch will not send her into the forest if she knows she's on the prince's side. However, Gelfus reveals that he told the witch to do so in order to obtain convincing evidence that Daisy is secretly helping the prince. Meanwhile, DNL in his panther form growls at Gelfus to stop him from scaring Daisy, but this guy arrogantly aims his scepter at him as he dislikes DNL's offensive mode. Then he swings the scepter towards Daisy, spewing magical energy in her direction, warning DNL that he can easily hurt Daisy if he disobeys his order, while our girl trembles in fear and can't stop her tears. Gelfus now yells and demands DNL kneel before him, but he flinches when DNL growls at him, leaving him with little choice but to warn him once more that he will kill Daisy if he does not obey. DNL's fall to his knees pleases this crazed prince, but Cerberus is not as thrilled. Yes, I've been waiting for the doggos! They all begin to rush towards Gelfus and bite his leg, so he falls to the ground while they burn his scepter, causing this dumb prince to panic. He cannot use any magic without his scepter since he was not born with any magic, which makes Daisy smirk, knowing that Gelfus has been completely powerless. It's time for some revenge. Cerberus glares at the terrified prince, who now believes Daisy tamed the wild dogs. But our girl acts innocently, making him even angrier, and as a result, Cerberus angrily barks at him again. He slowly retreats backward, but Daisy urges him not to go that way because DNL is standing by and itching to get his revenge. With no other choice, Gelfus kneels before DNL, begging him to spare his life, while Barrow lifts Daisy so she cannot see how DNL executes his revenge on the prince. And all she can hear is the prince's begging voice. Holy cow! DNL isn't fooling around! Daisy sits patiently with Barrow when DNL appears and transforms back into his human form. Meanwhile, Sero and Russ engage in playful banter with Daisy, seemingly seeking her appreciation for their previous actions. But DNL moves their faces away from her, reminding them that, as a result of their size, Daisy falls down. Then he tenderly reaches out to support her as she stands. I assume the Crown Prince has died, right? Daisy is surprised to notice something different about DNL's attitude, and she swiftly asks him why he has suddenly become kind, to which he smiles and says it's because he is now certain that she is on his side, which means he will now trust her. Daisy can't stop herself from smiling, since her plan to win him over has worked. As she continues to walk in a circular pattern, she notices something different about the prince, and adds that he was recently in a battle with Prince Gelfus, but she only sees wounds on his hands. He stops her from running in circles, and she's making him dizzy, and begins to explain that he's not injured when he changes his form at will, which Daisy finds astounding that he has been cursed yet can change forms whenever he wants without being hurt. It ended up being his strength. DNL then asks her if she notices anything else weird, and her eyes widen as she realizes he can now leave the abandoned house. Everything is going their way, so she can't help but hug him enthusiastically, telling him how glad she is for him, leaving DNL dumbfounded. He hugs her back, and she realizes that he is taller now. When she sees his face so close to hers, she notices that he seems more adult, which makes her feel shy and awkward. Cuties? Barrow then suddenly begins to whine, and she's startled to recall that nasty witch. She turns to DNL and tells him it is time to exact revenge because the witch does not have any poisonous plant perfume on hand right now. She grabs his hand and leads the way. As they approach the evil witch's home, they both realize that Kalia is already waiting for them, calling them rats. This is not good. Daisy then detects tear marks on Kalia's face, which surprises her that a witch like Kalia can cry. Kalia looks so lost as she begins to regret bringing Daisy into her house, a lewd Kelna, and in her wrath, she unleashes her power on the child, causing her to tumble. Then, while Kalia's tears are falling, she reveals that she cursed Prince Gelfus to prevent him from abandoning her and to enable her to monitor his every move, which is how she discovered what they had done to him, making her more angrier than ever. Oh, I never thought she was in love with that prince. Kalia, who is currently in a state of rage, unleashes her evil power with all of her might, choking Daisy with it while taunting her for not understanding her pain. What gall! You made our babies go through so much pain! This in turn drives DNL, who now is transformed into a panther, to roar in order to face Kalia. DNL attacks her head-on, but even in his beast form, our boy is not powerful enough to defeat this infuriated witch. With just a swipe of her hand, she sends both DNL and Daisy to the ground. But the brave prince refuses to back down and continues to try to attack Kalia, while this weeping witch uses magic on the poisonous plants she has, hurling them right at him, causing him to writhe in pain. Daisy quickly runs towards DNL, crying and helpless, while Kalia slowly advances towards her, ranting about how all she could think about after losing Prince Gelfus was how to dispose of her in the most heinous manner the child could possibly imagine. With her piercing red eyes and her nasty smile fixed on Daisy, this witch is definitely taking a heartbreak in the most devilish way. The realization that they couldn't possibly be able to defeat Kalia causes Daisy to quake with fear as she clings to DNL. Feeling helpless, she closes her eyes as if accepting her fate, but DNL suddenly transforms into his human form, grabs her hand, and leads the way. Kalia pursues them, and just in time, Sarah and Russ arrive to protect them. They distract Kalia with their barking and block her way, allowing the kids to hop on Barrow's back. The witch gives them one last warning to come to her, but these kids aren't giving up, so Daisy asks Barrow to lead them somewhere safe as quickly as possible. As they run away, Kalia is transforming into her most terrifying form, with wings protruding from her back, enabling her to soar effortlessly. Seriously, that's a boss-level form just to fight kids! Daisy senses that the area is growing darker and becomes uneasy as she hears Kalia's voice getting closer. The doggo then stops running, which causes Daisy to panic since it doesn't appear safe at all. She has given up and is now angry with herself for getting them into a mess. But then she hears DNL sounding so composed and promises to protect her. He pinches her cheek to calm her down, which is a success, and our girl is now smiling at him with such calm eyes, assuring him that she will look out for him as well. No, don't give us a till death do us part scene. The witch is going all out, with her enormous red aura, lightning, and even a magical chain weapon to ensure that these children do not live another day. She is going absolutely berserk, and I don't think our babies can handle her. Daisy orders Barrow to go, but the dog simply woofs a smile and does not move, which is not helping them right now. In that moment, the witch uses her chain to attack, making sure they can't get away this time while our helpless babies cover their eyes in anticipation of the blow. But much to their confusion, a magical barrier prevents Kalia's attack from reaching them. Suddenly, they hear water splashing. The lush greenery appears serene, and a huge, magnificent fairy of the spring greets them all for a lovely afternoon. Help the babies, whoever you are, you enormously enchanting lady! Daisy and DNL's jaws drop when they see her, while Kalia, on the other side of the barrier, becomes outraged and demands that she come out to fight. The Great Fairy is completely unconcerned about the witch, and she seems like the embodiment of peace as she guarantees the children that her spring is an oasis of safety, where no wicked people may enter. Oh, the one on the map! Barrow is pleased to see the Great Fairy, and it appears that she occasionally plays with them, which is why he did not move earlier, because he knows that they are already protected. Such a good boy. Barrow has already told her stories about them, so she knows Daisy and recognizes DNL's curse, yet it appears that not even the Great Fairy herself would be able to break the spell. After their peaceful conversation is cut short by Kalia's commotion outside, they find out that the Great Fairy is powerless to take out the witch, but she does extend an invitation for them to stay in her lush and secure forest. It is truly a paradise, but Daisy declines and is adamant about leaving, confusing the fairy considering that they'll be living a nice life with her. That could be true, but it will also make them feel imprisoned much like before. Something that rouses DNL, who then agrees with Daisy. The fairy smiles and says she won't keep them, but will instead give them a helping hand. At long last, they have an ally! The kids are grateful, but given everything they've been through, they can't help but wonder why the Great Fairy is willing to help them. Well, she is moved by Daisy and DNL's selfless protection of each other, but then sighs because as a fairy, she is forbidden to kill, even the witch. Our smart boy asks whether she can at least assist them while they fight, and she confirms, so the two immediately request her magical assistance. This surprises the Great Fairy, who says while playing in her spring that they already have magical energy, but then discovers that Daisy is a Ludkelna, who has magical energy but is incapable of using it, and the prince has a small amount of magical energy when he transforms into a beast. After giving it some thought, the sweet fairy confidently says that she can lend her magic to them, causing the two kids to light up. Her request for them to turn around is met by the sight of Kalia, who resembles a raving zombie more than a witch. My, is she not tired? But when they look at each other, the two kids can't believe it. They've transformed into their own teenage selves. They look so good together! The Great Fairy explains that because they couldn't wield her magical items in their child's body, she briefly transformed them into adults while approving their looks. Daisy has already seen DNL's face on the novel's cover, but she is wondering about Daisy's future appearance because she was described as ugly in the story. So she walks up to the spring to check herself. And who's that gorgeous thing I see over there? Yup, that's you, looking so cute. The fairy then places a magic circle on their arm to serve as a timer for how much time they have left to use her power, before handing DNL a sword and Daisy a magic wand. She adds that they have 5 magic circles that disappear every 2 minutes, giving them a total of 10 minutes to take on the witch. A magic buff? Let's go! When Daisy and DNL exit the barrier, they find Kalia standing outside with her luminous chains encircling her, outraged by their transformation. She attacks first, but owning it to the lovely fairy, DNL can just deflect it and is now more confident than ever. He looks really handsome here. Daisy, who is behind DNL, is now confident enough to speak back to Kalia, which enrages Kalia even more, as she can't believe that a mere Lukelna would disgrace her. The witch then fades and disappears in front of them, which they have no idea she could do, and DNL is unable to detect her aura at all. This is a terrible situation, and Daisy is becoming increasingly anxious about it because they are running out of time and need to locate her as soon as possible. When all of a sudden, she hears someone pushing them to go to the waterfall. She turns around to see Barrow speaking to her, claiming it was the Great Fairy's idea to go to the waterfall. Then, Daisy sees that 2 minutes have gone by, so she quickly grabs DNL and rushes to the waterfall. And the two realize that she understands the Cerberus thanks to the Great Fairy's magic. They set out riding Barrow, but Kalia, who is still concealing herself, does her best to pursue them, using her fire strikes along the way. Soon after, Daisy remembers that she too possesses a magical item, so she wields the wand, which inflicts pain upon her, most likely because she is Lukelna, but luckily hits the witch. They arrive near the waterfall and have no idea what to do next when Kalia emerges limping and wailing, pointing out that her entire plan to become a princess has been shattered because of the kids. As they say, karma will bite those who deserve it the most. Daisy and DNL watch the witch go insane as she continues to say how much she wants to be a crown princess, then an empress. So she withstood the agony of being in love with Gelfus. Oh, so she wasn't crying because she loves him? Kalia launches a barrage of attacks at them, and Daisy is about to block it with her hand when suddenly, she feels a sharp pain, so DNL holds her hand and they form a shield together. However, they would be unable to fight Kalia if they were only on defense, so Daisy proposes that she act as bait and lead her to the edge of the waterfall while he flees, which clearly frustrates our guy here. DNL disagrees with her, but it appears that this is all part of Daisy's plan, so he listens when she explains that because he's more competent than her, who cannot use magic, they must part ways so Kalia will believe that she is sacrificing herself to save him. Despite her visibly terrified expression, she insists that DNL launch a surprise attack the moment the witch lowers her guard. He is on the fence, but after checking their magic circle, he sees that they only have 4 more minutes, so he reluctantly accepts, while Daisy promises that she'll be alright. Our girl starts running away, which the witch notices right away. Just as they had planned, Daisy makes it to the edge of the cliff, but Kalia is closing in on her, and she sees right through their plan to use herself as a sacrifice so that the prince can escape. So the witch finds it hilarious as she closely observes DNL, who remains frozen in place, leading her to conclude that Daisy's scheme is a bust. She snickers and truly believes that being a lab rat suits Daisy wherever she goes, making Daisy look at her with distaste. Kalia advances towards Daisy, poised to deliver a fatal blow, when she is abruptly stabbed in the back by DNL, just in time for the last magic circle to fade away. A plan that worked! Yay! Kalia collapses to the ground. The magic sword piercing her evaporates, and both of our babies revert to their original forms. While coughing blood, the witch is still struck that she didn't hear DNL getting closer, while Daisy claims that the prince is smarter than she realizes. Kalia starts screaming Daisy's name in a creepy way as she realizes that everything is part of her plan, while the two kids see that Kalia's face is aging dramatically, which suggests that she must have been using magic to keep her beauty. The mommy was actually a granny? The old witch laughs and sits up as if she has more tricks up her sleeve, but whatever it is, she won't be able to pull it off because Sarah won't allow her to. Kalia manages to rise up and resolves to teach the Cerberus a lesson, while DNL stops Daisy from getting too close because they're now both weak. In that moment, she hears Sarah talking to her, assuring her with a smile that he'll be fine and she doesn't have to worry. Sarah then confronts Kalia directly, bites her arm, and then the two of them leap to the edge of the cliff. Our dog gives his life while taking Kalia with him, leaving Daisy to cry so much. No, the doggos have already won me over. Please be alive. They are now on the back of Barrow, returning to the Great Spring with Daisy, who cannot stop sobbing and blaming herself for being so weak that Sarah was forced to sacrifice himself. DNL tries to console her by saying that Sero defied his own creator, which just shows that he truly considers her a friend and wishes to help her, all while trying not to cry himself. They may have gotten their revenge, but it came at a cost. He then spots something ahead, and as he recognizes who it is, he begins shaking Daisy, who is already worn out, to look ahead, where they see Sero beaming at them. Sero, my boy, is alive! The Great Fairy joyously greets them after their hard labor, while Sero and Daisy rush to each other. But their reunion is abruptly cut short when DNL swoops in to lift the crying girl. He carries her, telling Sero not to become too excited because it would be dangerous if they hurt a delicate child, which the good boy understands. After Sero calms down, the prince puts Daisy down, prompting the dog to begin licking her cheek as she cuddles him. She then flinches as she hears Sero speak again, explaining with calm eyes that he is now completely fine. Interrupting them, the Great Fairy reveals that she had a vision of Sero sacrificing himself for her, so she had previously given him a lock of hair so she could find him easily in the future. So she knew the future, which is why she told them to go to the waterfall. However, Daisy gets confused by this, so she asks the fairy if Sero is still alive, but oh dear. The fairy shakes her head and sadly informs her that Sero has died. He's only visible because she gave him some of her energy, but if he leaves her paradise, he'll be gone forever. Daisy is downcast and upset that the fairy did not share the future she saw, but the fairy is certain that if Daisy knew, she would have stopped Sero, and the witch would have been impossible to take out. Daisy despises that she knows this, but she couldn't help herself until Sero put his head in Daisy's foggy head, pleading with her to stop crying. Sero expresses how much he likes her, but Daisy hesitates since she doesn't want to seem to be accepting of his fate if she responds. But who could resist this good boy? So she hugs Sero and tells him how much she likes him. He can no longer join them on their adventures, but I'll take what I can get. At least they can still visit him. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!